Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around the World with Duff. Welcome to an evening of peace and music and solace. Something we're all really needing right now. And the focus of this episode is meditational music and peace, like I said, coming to terms with just doing nothing and being okay with it. I'm really excited you guys are joining us. Thanks for joining us. We haven't done a show in a while. This show, if you're just joining for the first time, is Around the World with Duff. So basically, I am going around the globe interviewing people and finding out their current situation, what's happening in their part of the world, and basically going right to the source without any added media and getting people's opinions on what's happening with world issues, with COVID, with Black Lives Matter. Literally now, everything has sort of come upon us with vaccinations and testing. So there are so many issues. I had to take a break for a while because it was overwhelming, and I actually always wanted to incorporate music into my show, world music. And it was something that I myself am a folkie at heart. And I've always been a folkie. I've always been a grassroots kind of person coming from Saskatchewan. And I've just always had that in my soul, a feel for folk music and gospel spirituals and slavery songs. I mean, I'm all over the place. And then I also studied opera. So, I have a real understanding and appreciation for really good music and musicianship. And so tonight, I have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine who's been my friend for many years. She's my soul sister. And her name is DIANA KAZAKOVA from Canada, living in New York. This is somebody I look up to as a musician, as somebody I respect on all levels. She is a force. She's got that swirling energy, which just attracts. It's the law of attraction. The law of Diana is what I call it. So tonight I'm really excited to have her on as a guest. My guest host, speaking of Saskatchewan and New York, is my good buddy and best buddy and creative partner, actually, as well, Don Ackerman, who is joining us from Chicago. He has just relocated to Chicago, and I'm so excited. He moved from Nashville to Chicago. And we also have been brothers in arms for many, many years. And Don and Diana know each other. So they both lived in New York at the same time. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in Dawn, and we're gonna and then bring in Diana. I think she's having a bubble bath right now. So which I was just doing, listening to her album. So here's Dawn. Dawn, are you there? Hello, my friend. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted.
You muted me.
I had muted you just in case you said something untoward. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm swimming to the top,
Nice.
as spring, as the flowers start to bloom.
You have this amazing guest coming on. I can't even.
I know. I can't even either. Yeah. Diana, well, basically what we are doing is Diana's released a new album, and we are grilling her on just how this came about. And I'm so intrigued to know about the ins and outs of how creating the album and the music. It's beautiful. So you met Diane. We call her Diane. You met Diana where did you meet her? In Toronto?
I met her in Vancouver when you guys were doing, I want to say Blast from the Past or something like that, or I can't remember.
No.
You guys were doing a show together in Vancouver.
We were?
Weren't you? I saw her in a show that you were in.
I met Diana in Toronto, so you must have met her in Toronto.
I must have then, yeah.
Yeah. because you and I were living together, and I think Diana, we were doing Godspell around the same time.
That's what it was.
And the Georgian Theatre Festival, we were doing plays up north of Toronto, and I think you and her were teaching at the same time at the same place.
Yes.
With Pat.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm really glad you're on, because you know the New York chapter of Diana, which I reconnected with Diana after quite a few years, and you and her and I were all in New York together, and it was like a ball of energy.
She took us to that amazing jazz festival in New York City, which was one of the highlights of that trip.
Yeah,
I was living there at the time, or I think I was living there at the time, but it was like incredible. Like her connections to that world and her influences in her music. And I had the pleasure, you didn't have the pleasure, but Diana had a special concert for her birthday. This is just before COVID hit. And it was one of the most magical nights of music that I have ever been to.
Oh, that's right. She had that huge party. I can't remember what I was doing, but I wasn't able to attend. And she
were doing a show, I think.
Assembled all the people of the people, right? Like of New York.
God, the people that were there were mind blowing. And then, of course, she sang numerous times as well, and mind blowing. And I think, I have to ask her, but I know that she had talked about maybe she wanted to keep it private, but I think that she had it recorded, but I'm not sure if she ever did release it on YouTube or anything. We should ask her that.
Yeah, we'll ask her.
I would love to see that again, actually. That would be amazing.
Well, without keeping her too long, let's bring Diana in, because I have so many questions for her. And thank you for those of you joining us. Let me just make sure Holly's joining us from PEI. So thanks for joining us on Facebook, YouTube. And we're also we're gonna upload our Instagram and get that going as soon as we bring Diana in. So we've got all social media happening all at once.
We are out of control. We're like amazing.
It's just the way we operate.
I'm shady though. Be careful. I'm shady today.
Slim Shady. You're in your new place in Chicago, right?
I am. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got my desk today. I'm very happy.
Good. Let's bring in Diana. Ladies and gentlemen, Diana Kazakova. Hello, madam.
Hi, it's so nice to see you.
Thanks to you, Diana. Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited for this project. And as you are, I'm sure today is the day, right?
Today's the day. I'm just going to meet you over on Instagram there.
Okay. Yeah. So Diana's releasing her album today. The album is called, let's just make sure we're happening on Instagram first, right, Di?
Yeah, let's do that.
We like to get our ducks in a row first, and then we
want to reach the people.
Yes. Let me find you. Thanks again for everybody for joining us, wherever you are or wherever you may be. Let's just get this. Make sure our volume's down, Di, on our Instagram.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we're there. Hey, everybody on Instagram. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Insta.
For some reason, there's still volume. Shut up.
Can you see me on there, Doug?
Yes, I can. Okay. I still have volume. It actually won't shut off its volume. It refuses to
put it into another room. Put it in your bedroom.
Well, then no one will see us.
You know what? Maybe
anyway, we're there.
Do we want to post it on there after?
Yes, we will. Yeah. So
we'll post at the end.
Make sure your volume's down on that, Di. But thank you everybody for joining. Why is it? It won't let me turn down the volume. There we go.
Why did we? Oh, you got it?
I think so.
Technical fun.
Yeah. So, Diana, are we good?
No, we have a beautiful large echo chamber.
We do. Do you think we might have to bail on the old Insta?
Why don't we put it up on Instagram after? We can post it when the interview is over.
Yeah, we will.
Beautiful.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had to get gussied up for my boys.
Of course. I got dressed up too. I should have worn my tuxedo.
Yeah. So Diana, you've been at this a long time. I've known you for quite a while, but you were doing this way before I met you. You were studying music. Where did you study music? You have a Bachelor of Music, right?
I do. I studied at the University of British Columbia.
Amazing. UBC. We love UBC.
We do.
That's, I think that's one reason why we connected is because of the BC. I mean, we've all lived in BC at one time or another. And I think once you've lived in BC, it gets under your skin and it never leaves you, right, Dawn? Like, I think.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and it was kind of like, could I ever move back to Vancouver? And it's like, it's tempting because it's such a beautiful city. It's not necessarily vibrant in other aspects that I need in my life, but it's incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
So but it's hella expensive.
It's hard to beat the lifestyle there in terms of what's available in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a great place to make music. That's where I started making great music. And this type of music that you're making, Diana, is exactly the type of stuff that I was introduced to in Vancouver. And so where did you make that sort of connection from? I believe you studied classical, right? Because you're an incredible vocalist classically too, right?
Well, thank you.
So,
yes, I started studying classically, and I did a lot of choral work. I was in choirs for, I'm going to say 20 years, like from a very young age. And then I took voice lessons for about 15. So, I mean, I really put in a lot of time early on, and I did study opera. But then I ended up doing musical theater professionally. That's sort of the angle that made the most sense for me. But the bottom line is I was raised on folk music, right? So that's my mom with her guitar and my sister and I, and we're all harmonizing. And that's basically, from birth. So, and there is an interesting place where choral music and folk music cross over, because a lot of choral repertoire is sort of more ancient folk. So it's kind of an interesting through line. But at the end of the day, I always say that, folk music is my heart and theater is my profession.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's a good way of putting it.
Well, and some of those folk harmonies, I mean, come on, they are tricky, like there da, 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 in the sky. That stuff is unbelievable, and to do it right is that's something to be looked up to, right? Because and if you're a musician, like for me, I wanted to make an album that was musically sound, and I heard you say something the other day about that as well.
Right. I think what I'm trying to explore in this album, The Reset, is I was trying to create an ambient acoustic sound, or say a music that didn't involve words per se. Yeah. And I wanted to create some ambient music that was exactly to my taste. So I love Eastern meditation music. There's endless beautiful pieces to be explored there. I love electronic. That's really fun, some of that. There's neoclassical. I wanted to create some ambient music that was acoustic and would otherwise be in a folk band. So that's what we did.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful. So the album is, like you said, I think I have a little graphic here. This is how I roll. The Reset, ambient folk for tangled times.
That's
right. Can you just reflect on that a little bit, Di?
Sure. So the intention for this music is twofold. Is one, to challenge the musician in me and to challenge the musicians that I worked with to create something that had musical integrity, and that we were really mindful of trying to use our skill set that we all have taken quite a few years to develop. Yeah. And the other side of it was something that you could relax to, really quite simply something that when you put it on would just kind of make you go,
yeah.
So that's sort of what my relationship to this project is both as a musician and then as somebody who, you know, lives in New York City and really wants to find simple ways to just breathe. And of course, I would say this year more than ever.
Yes. Oh Lord, yes. Well, Dawn and
I just want to ask you, Diana, a quick question, because I've been lucky enough to see you perform, and you hit a lot of genres. Like, you can sing and play in a lot of genres. And so this is a very different genre for you. Was it because of the pandemic and COVID and all that really made you sort of decide to go this direction for this album?
You know what? It's kind of amazing to me reflecting on it now. This album was already done and on the shelf. It was completely finished, and just I had never found the right time or the right moment to properly or fully release it. My co-producer Agnes Kowalski and I would talk about it, and we would sort of just wait and see. And suddenly, when the pandemic hit, and I was in New York when it was the hot epicenter at the very beginning, and I mean, it was very uncertain and very stressful. And I mean, it still is. I just feel like I have a little more information now compared to in the beginning. We also were not aware at that time of how long this would last. So you were kind of each day to week really coming to terms with the fact that no, Broadway wasn't coming back in 2 weeks or a month. It was like we were really just trying to catch up to what had just happened. And so I found myself taking this music off the shelf and listening to it to help me feel grounded.
As your own therapy, like.
Right. And so I started sending it to friends in New York and saying, like, here, I don't know what to do for you. I can't even come and see you, but let me send you this music. And what started happening is they started writing me back or calling me and saying, I think this is the time for this music.
Yeah. It's all timing, right? It's all divine. I call it divine order, where everything, you don't know why at the time, you have a gut feeling of like, it doesn't feel right to do it at this time. And then everything just aligns and you just know, right? You just know this is it. Like, well,
and I was very touched by the response I was getting from my friends who were saying that, basically, so speaking of it, my sister must have felt us and thought, I gotta phone them. She loves this project, my sister. So Agnes and I were talking about it too. And I said, I think it's the time. So, right, to circle back, my friends were just saying, everything feels so complicated and so difficult. And listening to this music is so simple. And that's really what everyone is craving, is a simplicity, because it's just so dense and complex and difficult and hard to know at times what to do. And so that's sort of how this came to be in this time. And I've spent the past few months just kind of reimagining this from the bigger picture, just to say, like, what does this look like? What does it speak to in terms of titles? Bill Bissett, who's a really renowned Canadian poet, he helped me name the tracks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. And so I just took time over the last few months to just kind of sit with the project and see and reflect on what it had meant to me for those first 6 months of the pandemic, and then sort of translate that in a way so all the layers of this project, and there's a lot of layers, could actually be easily understood by anyone. And it just took a lot of time of sitting with it. I mean, I had time to sit with it. So
we were all sitting.
Did you change anything, Diana, from your original recordings to when you released it today? Have you made
I haven't changed the music, but I've changed a lot about the framework of how I think about it. And I found myself leaning into the easiest way to share it. That's sort of what I spent a lot of time thinking about.
And what do you mean by that? Like the platform you serve it on? Or
I mean, what I mean by that is, because there's so many layers, which I'm sure, we'll talk a bit more about today too. I wanted to figure out what's the billboard? What's the thesis? What is the simplest explanation of what this is, because what makes it unique is it's not a typical kind of anything. It kind of sits in between a few different things. And so Bill Bissett also helped me, and so did my friend Russ. We really thought about the title for a long time, and
Great
I kept
title.
hearing the word reset. Our Canadian Prime Minister keeps talking about, we need to have the great reset, the great reset. So I kept thinking, oh, the reset. And then expressing this music as something that could be an offering in a difficult time. And my friend Russ was talking about Tangled Times and Tangled Up in Blue and my love of folk music and Bob Dylan. And I just thought, that's it. In the beginning, it was for difficult times. And we thought, that didn't seem quite right. So he said Tangled. And I said, that's it. So
the alliteration too is great. Tangled Times.
Tangled Times. So I've just spent a lot of time kind of, I guess, readying it to go out into the world,
which you couldn't have done, or wouldn't have done it that extensively if it came out earlier, right? It would have had
no way.
a completely different take. Yeah. Well, I see that you've added. Dawn and I were actually talking the other night. I was doing my taxes and listening to it, and it completely calmed me down. Dawn had just moved to Chicago, and I said, "You need to breathe, brother," because he was like overwhelmed with a new city and stuff. And I said, "You should meditate." And I told him about your album, right? And so it is completely that type of thing where you just shut everything off. To me, it's the album that you've always wanted to hear in a massage session, and they put on some cheesy, thing that was like synthesizers, and you want the real gritty, raw, live playing. Like on your album, it's all live playing, right? It's like
that's right, yeah,
real musicians in the room, and you can feel the energy of it. That it just goes.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That means that, I've been doing my job. That's great.
Well, I wanted to take this moment, actually. I want to do this live in person because I want people to understand how easy it is to buy this album. So I was waiting for this moment to buy it myself because I want to do
isn't that
sweet? So I am going to go to that lovely email that if I get cut off, you guys just continue and I'll come back.
You mean this?
Do you have the link?
I do.
Yay!
Yeah, you're amazing.
I'm all about links.
I'm going to show people how easy this is to buy this album.
It's so easy.
And it's a mere $19.99. That's like 2 mochachinos or whatever the hell.
In fact, that's a suggestion, right, Diana? That price is a suggestion.
Yeah, listen, if you want to pay more, you go ahead, but 20 feels good to me. So
yeah, for all the work you put into it, my Lord. It's like going to your show, right? It would be like going to see you live play the show, right?
Sure, and it's a long album. It's almost 90 minutes of music, pretty close to.
Right. Yeah. Each track is like 12 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, 12 to 13 minutes. I found this kind of fascinating. At the time, I wasn't as conscious of it, but I thought about it after. When we would go into the studio, we never had a timer, but somehow the pieces all ended up being pretty close to the same length.
Really?
Yeah. There was no timer on. So somewhere between 11, 12, 13, and when I looked at them after, I was like, oh, wow. Because what we did was, I have a dear friend and colleague, Agnes Kowalski, and she's a really great producer, but she's also a therapist, and she's also had a lot of experience with meditation.
Oh, great.
So we produced this together, and what was cool is I wanted to make sure that I was going to get the right tone for this. And I don't mean that musically. I mean that, in terms of the feel of it.
Yeah.
And so Agnes would come into the studio with me and the musicians, and we would sit down. Each of the 7 tracks, so there's 7 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them, as we said, is about 12 to 13 minutes long. It's all acoustic. It's vocals with no words, acoustic guitar, and hand percussion. And so we would come into the studio, and each of these songs has a name, a color, a vowel sound, a theme. So we would talk about, for instance, track 1 is called Mantra of 120th Street.
Right.
That's about home and belonging and being grounded. So as artists, with the help of this kind of amazing expert, we would talk about what that meant. What did that mean? What does that feel like? What does that remind you of? Is it, is it something that is literal? Is it metaphorical? And we would just really have these discussions before we stepped into the booth. And then we would go into our booths. Oh, and each song has a key too. So the first song's in C, the second song's in D, and so on up the scale. The notes climb.
Oh, wow. What? That's so intriguing. Oh my God, that's so great.
So we would talk about it and really think about it. And then we would go into the studio, and the only framework we had essentially was the key and the vowel sound.
Right.
And then we would just improvise. And so Colin McGrath, the incredible guitar player who I've worked with for a number of years in a few different iterations, he would sort of lay down this framework, and I would just, and then the percussionist would come in, and he's a really amazing percussionist. He's done a lot of Broadway shows and has done a lot of orchestral playing. And then we would just find our way into it. And I have to say, it was one of the most unique recording experiences I've ever experienced. I've never sat and really talked right before a song. I mean, we've talked about things and you talk with the engineer, but like we basically rehearsed without doing anything and then went in and just let it flow. So
like the psychology of the song, like each song.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And what's the artist statement, right? What does it mean to us as artists? What does home mean?
Yeah.
What does belonging mean? And it was a little obviously different for each person, but I feel like layering in all of those elements that we did is what I'm hoping is that's what you're feeling, right? That's what you're sensing is that care. And all of us have had extensive music careers. So it was very important to us that it feel musically sound also.
So what would be the reasoning, Dawn? Are you doing okay with the link to Diana there?
It took me 17 and a half seconds to get the whole album, which took you probably a year to make. It took me 17 and a half seconds.
Oh, thank you, Dawn.
Hey, no, my pleasure.
That's why I hire him.
The whole thing.
Yes.
I've listened to a little bit. You had a sampling on your website, and so I listened to a little bit. And but I'm excited to hear the whole thing now because I like meditation.
Thank you for your support. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you for supporting independent music.
On that note, I would actually like to play a little clip, Di, if you don't mind.
I would love that. It sounds great.
If I can get this working properly. Okay, so this is where you go to Bandcamp, and actually, and this is where it's not on iTunes, it's not on Spotify. The proceeds of what you pay for the album go directly to the artist. That's why I love Bandcamp. I have some of my music on there as well. And that's what's great about Bandcamp is that 100%, right, Diana?
So actually today, they give every first Friday, they give 100% to artists.
Oh.
And on the regular, they have a very reasonable percentage that they take.
Yeah, it's like very minimal.
I will in over the next few weeks, I will release one song to Apple Music and Spotify.
We will. Okay.
I know that's a good way to, share the music.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, I think everybody should know that, sure, it's totally fun and awesome, Spotify. We all know that. And there's no arguing it.
For streaming and cars and wherever.
Yeah, and it's great. But, if there's an artist that you really like, go to Bandcamp and see if you can find them on there, because that's how you'll support them. Because the bigger streaming networks are great for promotional purposes for artists, really invaluable. And so artists kind of have come to think about it as that, right? That's how I get my music out. But in terms of actually supporting, Bandcamp has the ethics and the integrity and is really artist driven. And so I thought, for the first little while, I'm just going to have it on Bandcamp and just let it kind of simmer there. And then over the coming weeks, I'm going to keep branching out a little at a time. That's
what I did too. And actually, as you could see here on Bandcamp, you remember when you used to get an album and it would have the liner notes and you could go and read the lyrics and you could, this is what's great about Bandcamp is that you can You can read about the album here. You can see who played on it. You don't get that on iTunes or on streaming services. You can actually, you know, you've given your Instagram link and your Facebook.
Right.
It really does, you know, support those things that we used to, as kids, we used to sit on our beds and like, oh my God, who was on this album? Like, you know, you'd see all these artists that used to sing backup for, you know, and you'd never know that unless you read the liner notes, right?
That's a really good point. I never thought of that, Duff. That's a great point. And you know, actually on that point, it's so funny. Over the last few days, I was missing that concept. So I actually made my own liner notes for this album. So if you buy the album, those liner notes will be emailed to you, and it has sort of a synopsis of the project, and it has all the original artwork that I did for the project.
Oh, nice.
So the final beat being that there is an art piece to go with each song as well.
Yes, I'm going to show people that. I was blown away. Let's listen to Mantra of 120th Street. Be ready, everybody. It's beautiful.
Getting sleepy.
Oh, I'm already like.
Everybody take a breath.
Everybody, take a global breath.
Yes, take a global breath.
I can't remember. Do you live on 120th Street? I can't remember.
Yes, that's been my long-term residence in New York.
Right.
I can't play too much of it, or Facebook will.
In
jail, yeah.
I wanted to say, you know, as you were playing it, I was thinking about. I thought you would find this interesting because of the music background. This project for me is kind of an interesting combination of my folk life and my choral life, because the lower songs are more of a folk sound, and as you climb up the scale for each song, it kind of gets more into choral. So it was a good challenge to sort of span that. And the other thing musically, Duff, that I wanted to share with you, because I knew you would really appreciate this, and I'm sure Don will too, but I know Duff in particular, is that it's a whole different experience making a song that's that long. So you have to find a way to create. So in a regular song, right, it kind of arcs up and then it kind of goes down. And then in theater, it might have one more up, right, at the end, like a button. But most folk music, it either kind of just goes like that and then we're done. 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Yeah. So as a musician, trying to find the right way to create an arc that slowly and to sit and trust the simplicity of what you're creating was a whole different sort of module. You know, it was a different way of doing it. And it was really, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So the songs weren't arranged. I was listening. I'm like, how in the hell did you craft the song? Did you improv the whole thing? Like, did you stop and start and like, okay, this section we're gonna, you know, like how did you do that, Diana?
No, it was a straight shot, one take. It was
really,
yes, all of them were.
It sounds like an arrangement. Like it sounds like it's all
insane.
That's kind of, I will give some of that credit definitely to Colin, because he's laying down sort of this framework for us to work within. And of course to Justin on percussion, like keeping it moving forward. And, you know, I had worked with both of them a lot. So I think that probably helped too, that we sort of all knew the way that each other phrases. That's a big thing with people who do music together. You start to learn how the other person phrases. And so it was a very special experience. And
So would you say that it's got a bit of a like an improv sort of thing going on?
I would say it's fully improvised music. Yeah, it's just not as complicated as say jazz is,
Yeah.
right? It's
Amazing, though.
simpler.
But
you
to know when to come and go is you really have to know your musicians to know that to play that much, right? I guess it's like improv.
it was really like, yeah, I hold it really close, this experience of making it, and I hope that the feeling that we had in the creation, if it in any way can extend to others, then my my job is done, my work is done.
You were talking about each song having I think I heard you say has like a hashtag and a piece of art and that attached to it. Like I want people to know just how incredible your art is that goes along with each song. I had no idea you dabbled in any of this. Like,
Are you an artist as well? You paint?
right?
Well, I would say I'm
a
mixed media collage on.
Look at this, Dawn. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Let me take this out. Hold on. Like that's stunning, Diana. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's very cool. Very, very cool.
This piece is for which one of the
track number one.
Track number one. Okay, so that's the mantra. Yeah, like
now, did the art come first or the music come first, or was it a mix of both?
It was a mix, and I made a whole bunch of collages. It kind of came out of me in like a large stream, and then afterwards I knew which went with what. It wasn't necessarily like the music that I was, because I found with the making of the collage, if I pushed it too much, it didn't flow. If I got into my head too much and then tried to make a collage, so I just kind of made them, and saw what came out, and then after I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or I would do 2 or 3 and be open to which was what, and then I could sort of recognize it after it was finished. I was like, oh, okay,
there was a time back years ago where I used to get canvases and I would get paints and I would just start throwing shit on canvas. It's kind of like therapy for me. And you never knew what you were going to come up with, but 3 hours later, you have this thing that actually means something to you.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know till it's finished.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great if people actually, Diana, in the future, maybe you could have like a live listening party and people could actually create a piece of art each one of the meditations.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Well, there was an idea yesterday. My friend Nick Mancini, who's a really virtuosic vibraphone player, and he's a great composer and arranger. I mean, he is top.
Right.
He said that when he first put on the music, being a really strong jazz improviser, he and his friends like live in a different dimension, right? He and his musician friends in LA, like they live on planet, I don't know.
Xenon.
Planet Jazz.
The Cat Stevens in the hills, the Hollywood Hills there, the bushes.
Laurel Canyon.
Yeah, they are just incredible musicians, and there's a large group of them that I've had the privilege to get to know over the years, going out there to gig with him. And he said the first thing he did as a musician, he went instantly to the piano and started comping and improvising with it. And he said he thinks that musicians that are improvisers will really like this music, so they can just like find a meditative thing, and they can either blend in or they can solo over it. And I thought, that never occurred to me. And same with the art. So what I'm loving is all these ideas are coming out of this.
Yeah.
I definitely find myself writing, my scripts while this music is in the background. And
I did my taxes.
Me in some way.
Yeah, and you could do a Smool thing with it too, like harmonize with the vocals of it, because
absolutely.
Hey, you my hope this music too, whatever,
Well, that's sort of my hope, and I've been like, right. My hope is that I want to make it clear that if you are somebody that the word meditation you're like, no, I don't want it. This can totally be for you, because all you need to do is put it on and listen. And whether you want to actively listen or you want to just put it on to create a nice feeling in your home, because boy, we spend a lot of time at home right now.
Yes.
You know, I was sort of joking, like, whether you never meditate or whether you always meditate, if you want to dig deeper as a meditator, great. If meditation is not even your thing and you don't even like the word, you can just use it as a relaxing technique. And, you know, I was talking to Nick, we were sort of brainstorming, like, he's playing it for his 18-month-old child to help her relax.
Amazing.
You texted me and said it helped you get through your taxes. You know, I think that that's kind of the beauty of this, is all it is at the core is about taking it down a notch. So however you want to do that and however you want to interpret this music, it's up to you. If you want to go deep, you can go deep. Or if you're just interested in the hashtags, like for instance, right, if you're feeling heartsick, or I think, then that's track 4. That's your heart, right? And there's a correlation with like the chakras and how that system works. If you really want to dig into that as a yoga person, you can. If that's not your thing, it's fine. You can just sit and listen. So, and I think the selection process is cool. Some of my friends have been really getting into that now, to say, which track do I want? And then they go look at the hashtag and they say, oh, I'm feeling really scatterbrained, so I'm going to listen to 6 and that's going to clear my thinking.
Right.
Or I don't feel grounded, so I'm going to do track 1. And so those hashtags make it really simple to go to which track that you might want to be listening to that day.
Right.
Or as Brandon Liberati said when I was being interviewed by him, he said, or the other way around, you can listen and go, oh, that one really touched me today. What is that? Where am I at?
Yeah, it affected me this way. Like,
right.
Yeah. Well, that's and you had crafted each one of them with a therapist, right? So
right. So she just helped us with the themes, right? So what are these themes of your life? And whether that's a spiritual concept for you or just a daily life concept for you, I really want this to be for everybody, so that if you feel overwhelmed, as we all have, if you feel like the idea of resetting is just like we all know we should be doing more of X, Y, and Z. We know. And how do you tackle it a year in? What do you do? So I think this is the easiest reset that exists, because all you need to do is let play and take a breath. And if you want to stop and listen and really breathe with it, great. If you just want it in your life, now, one caveat, please do not drive while you listen to this. Because we would come out from recording sometimes and the engineer and Agnes would be sound asleep. So
I was bobbing for apples the first few
times. Exactly. So don't drive. And I mean that quite literally, because it's so relaxing. Do not operate heavy machinery.
unless you're on the 405 and you're stressed out, maybe you need to listen to it when you're like, listen to it.
I take no legal responsibility for someone listening to this in a car.
Exactly. I've also said over the years that, you know, certain pitches in music and tones in music create certain emotions. Obviously, it's not something new, but it's complete science when it comes right down to it. If you're not a hoity-toity yoga person, but you believe in science and you're very much a scientific person, it hits all the avenues as well.
Well, yeah, we both know, Diana, that the E chord, for me anyway, is one of those chords. It's very, very meditative for me. When I play an E, it's just like, it just has,
for me, it's F, and F is just, it's either F or B flat end up being sort of very often, if we're like, what key should we do this in? It's sort of, it's always in that arena for me naturally, or C. C's a big one too, but
C for me all the way.
Don's a C man. He's definitely a C man for sure. Seaman. We were talking about groups and choral stuff, and you were you've been a part of quite a few groups in New York, right? Like, I see that you were a part of a group called Bjorkestra.
Yes, Bjorkestra. Yes.
Exactly. So were you performing Bjork music?
Right. So Travis Sullivan is the genius behind this project, and it is an 18-piece big band reinterpretation of Bjork's music.
What?
Wow.
Did you have
Holy shit.
I did not respond. I was only responsible for the melody, but it taught me a lot about, because these are top level jazz improvisers, and it was built into the format and these brilliant arrangements that there would just be a solo. And so I just learned a lot about how to be present and how to listen, and the it's not always outside of jazz. I've found maybe in some jam bands, but where you get to really be in the length of something musically.
Yeah, right.
And in the orchestra, I really learned how to sit in that. And so I do think it informs some of this album, and
That's what I was gonna say.
the fact that I could do it, you know?
That all informs the part of this, like, right? And
Very cool.
it all sets, it was all in order of, I want to just play for people another group that you were in. I don't know if these are the guys that you played with. Yes, Colin McGrath.
Yes.
So he played on your album, and he is, maybe you could tell us, I'll just play a section of this. Let me see if I can make this work. Is this gonna work? I don't know if you can. I'm not sure how to get it there. Hold on. Can you hear that?
I can hear it. Yep.
Why you can't see it?
Waiting inward, gasping at glimpses of gentle true spirit. He runs, wishing he could fly, only to drift at the sound of goodbye. Wordlessly watching, he waits.
This brings back some great memories.
It's beautiful.
The empty place inside.
Let me try and get it correctly here.
Heartlessly helping himself to a bad dream. He worries to hear a goodbye, or even a hello. They are one person, they are two alone.
It's beautiful.
They are three together, they are for each other.
Yeah, so that's Colin on the stage right.
Okay. Wow, it's so beautiful. He's such a brilliant musician. Like,
yeah, Colin is really remarkable, because he's not only sort of a contemporary singer-songwriter of some really memorable and fantastic songs. You know, he's one of those people that can also arrange, you know, and he plays a number of different instruments, and I've always really admired his musicianship. I think that it's really, he's sort of like the whole package. And we've worked together in that trio. We were in a different trio before that. I've also supported him in his solo work. So it's a really rich musical relationship that I have with him.
and sorry, you said is he the one in the cowboy hat?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. He's doing all the picking, it looks like, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I'm kind of going backwards, because I started looking into some of your pages and some of the history of, because I lost touch with you for a few years, and you started you were producing, as Dawn was saying, we went to an event with you, which was the Jazz Foundation, I believe.
That's right. Yes.
And you were emceeing the whole thing, and I was like, what is going on here? Just super impressed by who was there, like John Baptiste and incredible people, like some of the best I was going to say musicians in New York.
That was one of my favorite nights in New York ever.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, I'm so glad. It was so nice to have to be able to show some of my New York life events to people that have known me for a long time from Canada. That was extremely special to me.
Yeah, I mean, your life in New York has been extraordinary. I mean, maybe you can explain this photo. Danny Glover, Tony Bennett, and Bernie Sanders.
And the
Yeah.
Diana Kazakova.
And DIANA KAZAKOVA. Please explain. Thank you very much.
So that was at the Apollo. I've worked as a producer for the Jazz Foundation of America for a number of years, and they're just an incredible organization that looks after musicians, and their mandate is just heart-based, and they are just one of the best things about New York City. So this was backstage at the Apollo.
Yeah, as you do. Yes.
As you do. And what had happened was I had been requested to bring Danny, as I call him now.
Dano, yes.
Your buddy Danny.
Danny and Bernie to meet Tony, because Tony was just in the wings on the other side. So I had to bring Danny and Bernie through the green room underneath the stage and get them across. And everybody wanted to stop and talk to them. And both of those men are such gracious, wonderful human beings. Truly,
bigger the star, the nicer, right? Like,
they're just so lovely. And Bernie is exactly who you think he is, in all the best ways. He's just an amazing person. He's a mensch. And so trying to get them across the green room and up the back stairs to the other side before Tony goes on, because as soon as he's done, he's going to leave. So I was tasked with this, and it was actually really neat to watch the three of them meet each other and to have a talk. And then what happened was, because both Danny and Bernie were emceeing, I ended up sitting between the two of them watching Tony Bennett sing, from just a few feet away. And when they announced his age, Ben Stiller announced him and acted as if like they were related, like it was his uncle or something. It was just so funny. I can't even do it justice, but it was great. And Ben Stiller said things like, Tony Bennett has won X amount of Grammys, but don't be intimidated. I just won the the Children's Choice Award. Or something. Don't be intimidated by me. I just won the golden popcorn. And so we were sitting backstage, and he announced his age, which was like everybody. I think he's like 93 or something.
Yeah.
And both Bernie Sanders and Danny Glover both audibly sort of went, "Holy!" And I turned to them and I said, "You guys are just the spring chickens in this scenario." And then the three of us sat there and sort of fangirled.
Yeah.
While Tony sang. And I have to say, I've seen a lot of people in New York perform, and some of it, as my role as a producer from backstage, this is what happened. Tony was just standing there waiting to be introduced. So we're kind of sitting here and he's waiting to walk on the stage. And he's just calm, and he's, and he was very lovely to everybody backstage. And then I find it hard to put into words except to say, he stepped out on the stage and it felt like the lights got turned up, except they didn't. It's just, he walked out there and something happened. It's like, I felt like I was being lifted out of my chair just from the crossing from the leg to the stage. It's like something magical turned on, and we were all just like entranced. And then he went out and sang, and he, he's in his 90s. He doesn't have the same necessarily like long phrasing anymore. I mean, it's been 50 years, but the choices and the musicality of his phrasing were breathtaking.
Right. Knows exactly where to go, like music.
And it was like, with some singers, I think when they get older, depending on what kind of music they sing, some people get better, some people stay the same, some people sort of maybe need to change genres, right? Depending.
Yeah.
When I'm hearing him for the first time and only time likely in his whole career of all these years, I didn't feel for a second like, oh, I really wished I'd heard him 50 years ago. No. Because his mastery of phrasing is something I will literally never forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. It just dawned on me. Do you think that you would ever be able to perform a Reset, the album that we're talking about, in concert? Do you think you could ever do that?
I did do it 4 times as it was being developed. I did it 4 times. I did it 3 times in New York. This is actually beautiful that you're bringing this up, and I'll tell you why. I did it 4 times, 3 times in New York and 1 time in LA. as part of like a greater kind of like variety evening, right? With a bunch of different artists. I don't mean variety show, but I just mean a variety of artists.
Yeah.
And one of my dear friends who actually passed away 4 years ago this coming week was a lead dancer with Martha Graham.
Wow.
And all of this began because when I found out he was in this event with me, I wanted an excuse to sing while he danced. So I just started crafting, like, how could I perform with this person? Because he was so phenomenal. He never took a dance class till he was 23 years old.
What?
He saw his first theater dance experience at 23. And by the time he was in his 40s, he was a lead dancer for the Martha Graham company.
Oh, I just saw Martha Graham before COVID. I just saw them. And now that you say that, like some of that music that was in the performance, I fell in love with. Like it was the most meditative and beautiful, some of the most beautiful songs I'd never heard before. And I still listen to them to this day.
Yep.
It brings me that memory of that quietness of the dance and the like. So I can totally get how you would be inspired by that for sure.
Yeah. And so I had different versions of the musician lineup while we were doing it. It wasn't always the same person, though. It was often Colin, and sometimes it was Nick Mancini, and it was, just a different roundup of people. And I was just thinking about him because the anniversary of his passing is coming up, and I was thinking about how much of an impact he had on the development of this music, because he really was instrumental, no pun intended, in helping us figure out the framework and also trying it live. And I think actually it works really well in a performance setting of the right kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, high energy entertainment.
No.
We're not going to go to the pub. We're not going to go to the pub and have a beer.
No.
Depends on what kind of pub. I mean, if you're in India in like a small,
yeah, that's true
you
too.
could smoke some pot and listen to it, though.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a Turkish cafe around the corner from me. I think it would be perfect in there.
Yeah.
Nod off with your Java in the corner.
Right.
Actually, be really good in a spa too. I was just thinking that.
Actually, I just found out yesterday that it's going to be featured in Modern Sanctuary in New York City, which is a big new whole floor of a building. They have meditation rooms, salt rooms, and they're featuring the Reset as one of their regular music choices. They give people choices before they go into the different settings of what they want to listen to.
Yeah.
So I'm on basically Modern Sanctuary radio.
Oh, come on.
That's
I would think
awesome.
it'd be great in an isolation tank too. Like, I don't know I don't know how you would get your music in there, but you have a choice in an isolation tank to listen to that as well. Like, to whatever you want. That's brilliant, Diana. I think it's just awesome. The journey and all of the different things that make up that music for you. Like, like the jazz and the musical theater. It all culminates into this beautiful thing that came about at the beginning of COVID, like it's, by the way, everyone whoever, I don't know who's watching. I can't see who's watching, but we're discussing this album that is brilliant. It's a meditative, holistic type of album that Diana has produced, and it's called The Reset. I'm just going to put it up again. That's what we're talking about. This brand new album Diana has just released today. Happy release day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
And it only took 17 and a half seconds for me to click on it and get it downloaded.
Yeah, it's actually really fast. It downloads as a package onto your computer, right? And then you can put it
to that web address on the bottom there.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can drag it in. I think then you can drag it into your iTunes player or whatever.
That's right.
And then
that's right.
But it's called The Reset: Ambient Folk for Tangled Times, and it's about $19.99, right, on Bandcamp. Right. The link to Bandcamp, if you go to bandcamp.com, if you're challenged like some people, just go to bandcamp.com and put in Diana's name, Diana Kazakova.
Sure. And the other thing you can do is you can go to DianaKazakova.com, and there's several places in my website that will also link you to it. Any picture that looks like that will take you to Bandcamp.
So it's brilliant, and it's so easy to do. And I really wish you luck with the album, Diana. Like it's brilliant. It'll be on my playlist. I actually do a Thai a meditation. Let me just get rid of this stuff. Hold on. I have too many things going. I do this Thai. I started with this guy who does meditative transcendental meditation.
Right.
And I'm going to suggest this album to him because we basically, it's all online, it's all virtual, and hundreds of people join on Zoom, and it's basically you're just transcended into this other, into the stars. And
beautiful.
This album would be perfect for that kind of thing.
Great.
Yeah.
You know,
I wanted to say that I really want to emphasize, you know, that while this is a meditative energy, and I love hearing things like that, and also it's a musical thing, I hope that people will be open-minded, and just if they feel stressed out, just, you know, throw it on.
Yeah.
You know, because I think my hope is that there is some peace to be found. That's my offering as an artist. I have at times, as we all have, felt very helpless. I can't even see my friends. I haven't seen most of my friends in a year. How do you connect? What do you do? So for me to be able to share this and to take something that, as you can see from all the elements, why it would take a few months to kind of boil it down into its, you know, purest form. And for me, the purest form of this is that it's ambient acoustic folk that you can listen and chill to. That's really it. And it's kind of sits in a place of its own because of how it was made and who it was made by. And I just really humbly offer it to everybody in this year that is hard to wrap our heads around.
Yeah. And it's also rare to hear an album like this with a vocal as extraordinary as yours that is just floating beautifully through. I mean, just that in itself, if you took out the music, like sometimes I used to have this like monk album that I loved listening to. It was like Gregorian monks, and it was just and I put it on, like you said, during the day, just doing stuff around my place, laundry or whatever, or just sitting and doing nothing or reading a book. And that in itself is just so peaceful and calming. Like, and your vocal is that timbre of your voice, it's just like this, at times drone, and then it's like angelic in other parts. It's just gorgeous. So
well, I appreciate you both bringing such a great perspective to it. I feel like both of you have a really well-rounded sense as like artists and people, and I think that it was really cool to talk to you both, and we came up with some ideas too that I hadn't thought of, and Dawn for showing you how easy it is to buy. So I really appreciate it. I mean, talking to you two, I mean, I think we should hop off here, hop on FaceTime, and ride into the evening.
Yeah, I think so too. I stick around. We'll take a shot. We'll end the stream, and then we'll take a photo to immortalize this moment. But thanks, Diana. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about the album?
I think that's it. I just think, you know, peace, and I guess my closing remark is everything does feel so complicated right now and really kind of daunting. So just go with what's simple. Just simple moments, simple solutions. In this case, with my album, just put it on and take a breath. And we're just going to keep getting through this a day at a time. And that's all we can do. So simplicity is probably, you know, our best friend at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn, do you have anything to say?
No, just that I can't wait to hear the whole album. I can't wait to listen to it. I'm going to do it once we get off here. I'm actually going to listen to it tonight. And but I did have one question for you. You might kill me, Diana, for even asking about this.
Okay, go ahead.
I had the pleasure to be at your birthday, a special birthday celebration where you had a concert. And are you ever going to release that video to show the world? Or
well, I'll tell you for sure. I will release it to you. You can definitely see it. You know what? That night was interesting because there's definitely sections of it that are so beautiful. In a very public world, I felt like having a private evening where it was just for all of us as people rather than as professional musicians, because it does change the feeling of an evening when it's professional. And so I feel sort of like that happened in a kind of magical moment. And I encourage more people to try that, because it was like I had to really ask something large of everybody, which was to not share it and to let it be in the moment. And before COVID sort of turned everything off, a lot of people were starting to do that, where like you would hand in your phone at the beginning of the evening. And so part of me feels selfish not sharing it with the world, because the caliber of musicianship that unfolded that night was
amazing.
Can't even.
As a producer,
sorry I missed it.
I will say that because everyone came in and did this beautiful thing for me and came to Minton's in Harlem and played, we never rehearsed, right? Because you can't get 25 people together in New York, you know, so everybody rehearsed on their own and then just came in. So the producer and me also wanted to just not worry about, let it be a personal project. But having said all of that, I would never say never. I mean, I think it's possible that a few of the songs might make their way out into the world at some point. But the real goal is, Dawn, is to get back into life and then do some nights like that for the public. That
would be amazing. Yeah, you should definitely do that, because it was a truly magical night. And I know it really just came from sort of an organic place where people were celebrating, you know, you and your 40 years. And so it was fantastic. And I would love if you could send me.
You know what it really was? That's usually what takes place in my living room. I just wanted to have a few people.
I can vouch.
I'm not even kidding. You were over at, you know, Duff, the folk trio there. That was Reed and Colin. I mean, you were there with me at their house, remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. I sang some Hank Williams or something, right?
Yeah. They still talk about how great it was. But so I think I just invite everybody, when life comes back, to see if we almost feel like we're not allowed to ask that anymore. Just the basic thing of like, can we close the shop? Yeah. I think it's part of what made that night imprint so hard on me. I feel like when we went into lockdown, I was still living off the fumes of that evening.
Yeah.
And I still can conjure it now, you know?
Yeah. It was amazing.
So I think closing things to the public is a novel idea that I think we should, you know, look at when we get back into life. Although in the beginning, it's just going to be the roaring 20s and we're all going to be wild and celebrating.
We're going to be wasted. We're going to be so drunk and we're going to make out with everyone.
Disorderly and have fun. And I'm excited actually to live through a roaring 20s. And that's what we're going to get to do in the year or so.
We are, and it's good. Like, there'll be so many parties we won't be able to keep up. Like,
it's going to be wonderful.
I'm going to have so many parties.
Absolutely, we're going to come to New York on the regular, and we're gonna make things happen. And
for sure,
thanks you guys. This was just so great. I feel like even I learned something about my own project by talking to you because of your wisdom and your insight. So thank you for having me and talking through this with me.
I love you so much, and I wish you much success on it. And thank you for doing this for everybody, and for just going with your gut and releasing it just at the right time when everyone needs a little bit of solace. So thanks, Diana. You guys stick around. I'll take you out, and then we'll have a little picture. But I'm just going to end the show for a second. Thank you, Diana, and we'll see you soon. And Dawn, don't go anywhere too. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. That was my interview with Diana Kazakova, who just released an album called The Reset. It is available you can go to her website. That's probably the easiest thing, DianaKazakova.com. You can check out her bio, everything you want to know about Diana. And there's some video there of beautiful songs that she's recorded. So I highly suggest you check that out. She is one of the most incredible artists and musicians that I know. So thanks everyone for tuning in to Around the World with Duff. This was a really great episode. And thanks to my co-host, Don Ackerman, coming to you from Chicago. We'll probably get some updates from Donald as he settles into the Windy City. Thanks everybody. Have a great night and be safe. wear your goggles, wear your mask, and socially distance, and get the vaccine if you can.